no fussing. I would waste my time in the apartment nesting, or writing in my Italian journal, or exploring the neighborhood. We got bus passes, month bus passes. One time I took the funicular up the hill and a commuter train out to the countryside. And I would ride the bus, just pick one, and go out to the end of the line and come back. One time, I didn't know what stop I was supposed to get off at because they looked different. But there was this little Hispanic lady came up to me on the bus without prompting, and she spoke to me in English, and she said, "This is the bus stop you have to get off at, and this is the direction you go for your street." I had never seen her before. She was my little abuela angel. There were other wonder-filled things like that. One time, I needed to hem up my pants. And with limited clothing, you make do with what you have. I didn't have a sewing kit. I didn't want to buy one. Well, I didn't use those pants for a while. One time I was taking a meander up the hill on a brick pathway to the local kiosk. It had a beautiful view of the city and the Port Atlantico. There was a gnarled tree out there that had blown by the wind and grown that way. In the tree, stabbed in the bark, was a needle and a spool throat. Thank you. And there was one time, speaking of which, I was hanging up the clothes out the kitchen window, you know, when in Rome. And it must have been on the way in, I dropped the sock. Down 3 floors in somebody's backyard. How was I going to get my sock? I knew the people were still on vacation, they wouldn't be back for another week. Well, I guess I'll ask them in a week for my sock. But lo and behold, the next day, I opened up my kitchen window, and there's my sock, hanging from a string, coming from heaven. So I was glad it wasn't underwear. I took the sock off, wrote a little note, grazie, and hooked it back up. Next morning, it was gone. Never found out who they were. How did they know I dropped the sock? How did they get to the backyard? How did they know what to do? I never found out. Long about Valentine's weekend, my husband was suffering from a tooth. And the herbs we got from the pharmacy were not working anymore. So we had to do something a little bit more serious. We asked the downstairs couple, Enrico and Rose. Enrico was Italian and Rose was Dutch, but they both spoke English. Matter of fact, she helped us out when we broke a can of water. Enrico called his dentist and made an emergency appointment and wrote us a long note in Italian so we could take it to the dentist and give it to him. So bright and early, Monday morning, find the bus, go to Piazza, and we're in the office. There's just us, because we're the first ones there, the dentist and the nurse and the assistant. We're handing this note, and we're trying to gesticulate. They don't speak English, we don't speak Italian, and hoping this procedure can happen. And you know, that dentist, he's such a comedian. You know what he did? Clapped his hands together and said, "Mwah." and then he goes at my husband with the drill. I'm thinking, doesn't Novocaine happen here? Scusi. Anesthesia. Scusi? Anesthesia. Anesthesia. Ma no, not needed. And the nurse and the assistant looked like it was normal. Didn't bat an eyelash. They did the procedure. We did find out from the professor that, yes, not using anesthesia in dentistry is common over there. Half an hour later, mercury filling's out, pretty white filling is in. We're done. And that was 90 euros, so that was like half or a third of what I've been over here. And we headed straight for a bakery. There's lots of great bakeries in Italy. Italy is a place of food. Matter of fact, my favorite chef learned how to make wonderful spaghetti sauce, sugo de pomelo. And you know what the trick is? You cook it for at least 3 hours. Those mamas over there, they cook them all day. Over here, we open a jar, a can, spaghetti. How about it? Not only that, you know what's good in there? Italy, being surrounded on 3 sides by ocean. They put tuna. Who puts tuna in spaghetti sauce? They do. And carrots. Carrots? But I have to swear, it's pretty good. Long about March, they had a severe snowstorm while we were there. Coldest March in 30 years, 18 years, whatever record you're keeping track of it. One night there was 6 inches of snow. For a palm tree at the end of the road, it was drooping over with heavy laden branches. The rows and rows of motorcycles, they were barricaded with that shit because they weren't going anywhere. And the cast iron fence was actually transformed into a beautiful tapestry of lace. It was near our time that we were starting to have to get ready to go back. And it was okay because we had fallen ill, so we were just slowing down, dragging. We didn't have the resources and the remedies that we would have had at home. But we wanted to get in one more trip. So we went to the Cinque Terre. Got to go there with some of the students from the lab, and we're so thankful that the train took us from village to village so we wouldn't have to hike. I enjoyed my time learning Italiano, living in an ancient condo, exploring an old city. My husband and I had a 3-month, once-in-a-lifetime cultural experience. Genoa is a superb city. And we hit the jackpot. Arrivederci.
Thank you. Boy, foreign dentist, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I can do it. How about you, Ann?
Rough, no.
I can barely do an American dentist. Great job, Kristen. Who's next?
Let's see. Yassine.
Yassine, the younger brother of Yusuf. Have you ever seen Yusuf before? This is the younger brother. Come on up, Yassine.
Absolutely. Let me get to you. That's perfect. Let me just move this out of the way. Can you kind of stay in here though? Because we're filming, so we don't lose you as a camera.
Hello, my name is Yassine, and I'm a 3rd grader at Bonnie Slope, and I'll be telling you about my boring trip to Egypt. But before I get to that, this is my first time, so I'm asking you not to laugh at me. We will now be landing in Egypt, the pilot said. Oh boy, I thought to myself, I knew this trip was going to be awful. I didn't want to come here, nothing to do here, and I miss my home. Equals awful. Come on, let's go to a hotel, my dad said after we had landed. We quickly bought our rental car, and finally we were ready to go to a hotel. We drove in silence as we drove, and we drove for 15 minutes without seeing anything. We looked outside, and there was nothing to see. I don't know why my dad chose to come here, but he did. So finally, after 15 minutes of silence, we pulled up to a brown building. And by the looks of it, this was going to make my trip more awful. We walked inside to the building, and my dad talked to the lady to get our key to the room. Meanwhile, I just slumped over my suitcase. Finally, my dad got the key, and we went to the elevator to go up to our room. We went to our room, and we inserted the card into the door. The door swung open, and all I could do was lie down. And so I did, and pretty soon, I fell asleep. I woke up, and I checked the time. It was 8 p.m., which meant I had 2 hours of sleep. But there was one good thing. While I was sleeping, my dad had brought me some KFC. Apparently, they already ate while I was sleeping, so I was the only one to eat. I ate and looked at the pyramids. Boring. There was nothing to see. But then my dad came up from behind me and surprised me. He said, "Are you enjoying the trip so far? Because we're only staying here for one more day. So, and we're not going to see anything. We're just going to stay here." And that left me thinking, stay here in the hotel? My dad usually goes outside, visits the place on vacation. But this time, we were staying here, in for 2 days. That really delighted me. I did not want to stay here. It was the next day, and my family was already awake. So I quickly dressed and brushed to eat breakfast. And finally, we were ready to eat breakfast. We went downstairs and we started to take food. We sat down at one table, but there was a noise. Zing! My dad pulled out his phone from his pocket, and he had a huge grin on his face. Ozzy, my dad's friend, has invited us for dinner at his hotel tonight. Can't you believe it? It's going to be so much fun. Yeah, right, I thought to myself. Just, what should we do there? Only one of my dad's friends and nothing to do there? But something left me thinking. How is he here? And was this a surprise? For the next 5 hours, I basically read, did my laptop, did my iPad, and watched TV. It's like you were sitting at your house and doing nothing for 5 hours straight. That's how I felt. Finally, it was 7 p.m., time for the party. We got dressed into nicer clothes for the party. Finally, we were ready and we started driving. After 15 or so minutes of driving, we pulled up to another blue building. And this looked fancier than our hotel, so I had a little hope inside myself. Maybe this would be a little bit more fun than our hotel. I went up to the door and opened it, and I was shocked. All my friends were there. I wanted to ask my dad, was this a surprise? He said yes, and I rushed to play with my friends. We played video games, and we watched TV, and we played board games, until it was time for dinner. I went to the living room to get dinner, so I did that. I sat down, but there was a naughty 3-year-old that I knew. He came up to my food, and I pushed him, but just a little too hard. He fell into a fireplace right behind him, and he yelled so loud that his parents came rushing to him. But I was quicker. I ran away into another room so they wouldn't notice me. Luckily, no one else noticed me, so I was in trouble. I was not in trouble. One down, 1,000 more trips to go. And ladies and gentlemen, I have a moral to my story. Can you guess it? My moral is wait till the end of something, and things may turn out things may turn out not the way that you think it would be. Thank you.
There wasn't a fire in that fireplace, was there? Your dad's a crafty individual. I gathered that from some of the other stories. Who's next, Ann?
Let's see. Tim Corcoran.
Tim,
Tim?
come on up.
Boy, this is looking clearer than I thought. So, my name's Tim. I'm Irish. Been here in Portland, in Beaverton, actually, since 1982. I'm not sure if my story really qualifies for travel but it did happen in another country, let's say. It happened in the country I'm from. So, you can't imagine it right now given my advanced years, but there was a time when I was an insolent teenager, trying the patience of my poor departed parents. We lived I was born in the southern part of Ireland in County Cork, and every Sunday afternoon, my dad would pile us in the car and head off somewhere beautiful for a walk. Now you can imagine, insolent teenager, I was very excited about these walks. So of course what I would do is pop on my little headphones and my little trusty cassette player Walkman, and I would try to ignore them and try to ignore the walk, usually sit in the car. This one day, my dad decided to go to my mother's favorite place on the planet, which was a little area, a very remote monastic settlement, a place called Buganbara. And Buganbara is, it was founded by the patron saint of Cork City, Saint Finbar. And Finbar wanted some terribly remote place where he could build his monastery and, of course, whatever these guys do in these monasteries by themselves, back in those days. So sure enough, we drive out there. It's a beautiful place. It really is a beautiful place. It's in the mountains. Yes, there are mountains in Ireland. Very, very small mountains. It's surrounded by trees, and it is a very picturesque lake. Gorgeous, gorgeous place to be alone, I suppose. But it must have been incredibly desolate back then. Anyway, in the middle of this beautiful lake, there's a beautiful little island, and on that beautiful little island is a beautiful little church, built on the scene where Finbar used to have his, as they say in Irish, his kill, which is basically a hand-built church. The other thing I should mention that this lake is famous for is the swans. Now, nobody really knows where the swans came from. They just adopted the lake, but they've been there as long as anybody can remember. So my dad gets out of the car, my mom, and they decide they're going to go for a walk, and of course I'm going to go with them, and I said, heck no, I'll stay here. Put on my headphones, pull out my book, wind up the windows, so I'm enjoying nature, and minding my own business, they disappear. And I'm used to this. This is what happens most Sundays. All of a sudden, there's this bang, bang, bang on the window. And there's a swan. And this swan is smashing his beak on the glass. And I'm thinking, what the? And he's banging and he's getting really, really hard on this glass. I think he's going to break the glass. What am I going to do? What do I? It's a swan. He could hurt himself. What? And then I think, oh, wait a minute. I bet these swans are fed by people. Mm-hmm. That's what he's doing. He's here begging for food. So I start explaining. I don't have any food. I mean, isn't this a universal gesture? Doesn't the swan understand this? No, he doesn't. Bang, 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 bang. He walks around to the other side. Bang, 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 thinking there's somebody else. There's just me in the car. So I think, well, how do I get him to go away? I wind down the window. Wait a second, swans can be vicious. I'll wind back up the window. What am I going to do? Go away. No, doesn't matter. So I thought, maybe there's something to eat in the car. Wait a minute, my mother always has stuff in the glove box. So I climb over the seat, look in the glove box, and sure enough, she has a bag of candies. And I think, well, pinch. So I take this and I unwrap it, and I wind the window down a crack, and I put it out there, and he grabs it and starts to walk away. And I think, oh, dodged that one, see? Piece of cake, just give them something sweet, they're happy, they're gone. I go back to my book. I go back to listening to my music. Everything's fine. About, 30 minutes, maybe an hour later, my parents are back. And they get in the car and they say, wow, you won't believe what we just saw. And I said, really? You won't believe what happened to me either, but you go first. And they said, well, we were just walking back across. We went out to the island to see the church, but we were walking back along the little peninsula, and we saw the swans. And there's this one swan, and there must be something really twisted about it. And I said, why? Because he keeps raising his head up like this, and then he keeps dipping in the water and going, and he brings it up again, and he shakes it. And he seems to be going. I said, what do you think was wrong with him? And they said, well, we don't know, but it's like really bizarre. And I said, where is he? And my mother says, he's over there. So I look over there, and sure enough, there's this swan. He can't open his mouth, and swishes it around in the water. And he's slowly paddling into the distance around the bend. And I'm thinking, probably shouldn't have given him a toffee. And my mother says, well, that was our story. What's your story? And I said, Oh, this is a great song I've been listening to. I like it so much. And that's my story. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Great job. I was attacked by a swan in Lucerne. I wish I'd had a bag of toffees to give them.
To defend yourself.
Yeah, just to keep them away. Who's next, Dan?
Our next teller is Vivian.
Vivian, come on up. Vivian's one of our intrepid volunteers here at the library. Let's give her another round of applause. Let's see how the level is for you.
What happened before I get to my story is the other day I was helping put together packets for the summer reading program. We had 3 teens in, and they were complaining about the fact that they had 4 years in high school to come up with 40 volunteer hours. I laughed. I've been a volunteer at the library for a little over 2 years. I just went over 900 hours. I told them there's lots of fun things you can do at the library, and you'll be at 40 in no time at all. However, last time I did a story, the first part of it, it was suggested I might want to just do that as a story. So that's what I'm going to be doing. If you ask somebody what a normal blood or a normal temperature for a human body is, they will tell you it is 98.7. Actually, they can go from about 97 to 99.5 and still be considered normal. I'm at the low range of that. One of my great fears in life is being someplace where I get chilled, because the only way I can get warm again when I get chilled is take a hot bath. Now, in 1985, in October, I was going on a program called LEAD, which stands for Leadership, something about education, adventure, direction. Anyway, it involved leaving where I lived, which was in Rome City, Indiana at that time, having a ride to Fort Wayne, start hitchhiking to Roswell, that place, New Mexico, where there would be chili waiting and a bed, floor to sleep on. And then the next day, get up and hitchhike to Tenney, New Mexico, where I would be involved in 14 days of out in the wilderness. This is October. We get there Halloween night. One of the great things about going in the hitchhiking thing was that you got to experience things that, well, one, you don't tell your mother. Don't ever tell your mother. Tell your mother afterwards, but don't ever tell your mother you're going to hitchhike. I was with a married couple, and we got to Amarillo, and we got our first ride, and another couple that was going to the same thing was already in the car. But it was a short little ride from Amarillo. And so we had to get out and get another ride, and we're like, nobody is going to pick up 5 people. No. I mean, we're in Texas after all, heaven forbid. And so we separated out. It took 5 rides, but every time they picked up all 5 of us. So we finally end up in Tenney, New Mexico, up in the mountains, and it is Halloween night. And the sky is clear, you can see the stars, you can see the moon, And we've set up our tents, and the next morning we get up and it has snowed. We're not talking fluffy stuff. We're talking wet. Every single thing is soaked snow. So we had to switch things into another backpack, get different tents, different sleeping bags, and hike out into the wilderness and set up. And it's like, oh no, is this going to be the entire time? Actually, that was once the snow melted, that was the end of the snow. And we were learning rock climbing, and it started out with learning bouldering, which is you take a big rock and it's like, get up on the rock. And the thing with everybody going on this thing is everyone has some kind of fear. We had women who had packed disinfectant wipes so that they would be minty fresh through this thing. We had ones that filled their water bottle and put it in the bottom of their sleeping bag so it would be warm in the morning so that they could wash their hair before they went out to climb rocks. Yeah. There were those who refused to eat because we pulled water out of streams to cook with. We had those that were afraid of being attacked by animals. It was an interesting time. There were several different climbs. The first one actually involved one of the, and there was a number of climbs wherever we went, where you had to go up a chimney. And the thing was that once you went up a climb, then you got to be the belayer up above. And most people going up the chimney would get stuck in one spot and have to figure out, you know, you're gonna have to push against one wall and push against the other one and just kind of shimmy up. You're in the top, you know this, you're telling them this, and they're like, no, this is not going to work. I am going to fall. And work through that. Next day, we went to a place, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to be the first one to go up so that I can belay, and then I can come back down and I can climb more. I really like climbing. That's fun. So I was the first one up. And I belayed every single person up. I'm like, will I ever get down? Will I ever get to climb again? And I did my first rappel backwards, which is the way most people do it. It's great because you have your feet on the side, you go down. It's great. The next day, we go to one and we're told that it has this thing on one of the climbs where you go up and you have to jam your hand into this thing. And you look up and what you will see are the tails of lizards. And immediately people will scream, rattlesnake! And of course, they're told, no, it's not a rattlesnake. Now that day, I was climbing on one of the other climbs on that one. And I walk over and I look down beside me. And this is still fairly close to the time we were covered with snow. And there is this rattlesnake. Now I know if I say rattlesnake, they're gonna go, no, it's a lizard. And Mary comes over to do the climb next to me. Now Mary's the one who was like refusing to eat because of water out of stream. Because she had always lived in a city and she's like, this is in no way normal. Okay. And I go, Mary, there's a rattlesnake over here. I don't think you should climb. And I called the guy that I had from the couple that I go, Dan, can you go tell Janine that we've got a rattlesnake over here? And she goes, it's a lizard. And he goes, you know, Janine, it's the strangest looking lizard I've ever seen. It's like 2 feet long, has no legs, and it has a tail that has a rattle on it. She comes over, she looks, she goes, Mary, get away. Vivian, keep climbing. keep climbing. Meanwhile, the guy who was in charge showed up. He takes the rock and goes, no more rattlesnake. Then I got to do rappel forward. This was fun because I managed to get away from the wall and could not get back on the wall. I am now upside down and people are panicking and I'm like, I'm in perfect control of the rope. I can see the ground. As long as I'm moving and I'm in control, I will be able to see the ground. And they're like, you need to get to, just patience. So we start going down. Then we decide, or our next adventure is we're going to climb to the top of the mountain, which was interesting in that I would think, oh, there's the top of the mountain. And we get there, and there's more mountain. And it's doing this, and meanwhile, we've got guys. And you know how guys are. They like to be macho. And so they're like, yeah, see that? That's mountain lion shit. See that? That's bear shit. And I look over, and Mary is just going gray, and I'm just like, this poor woman. I gotta do something for her. So I started doing what I know to do because I was a campfire girl. I sing a song, and I sing, one day as I was in the woods, I saw a bear in tennis shoes. One day as I was in the woods, I saw a bear in tennis shoes. Get to the last verse. And so I jumped up in the air, and I missed that branch away up there. Oh, I jumped up in the air, but I missed that branch away up there. Now don't you fret, now don't you frown, 'cause I caught that branch on the way back down. Now don't you fret, now don't you fear, 'cause I got that branch on the way back down. At which point, people were laughing, but everybody started singing the song, and Mary was much happier. By the end, I realized that everyone had different fears, but everyone was able to figure out some way to overcome them. And amazingly, I got to start a fire with one match. The reason why was we had to take toilet paper with us, and I got the big Scotch roll. And the last day, I still had a lot of toilet paper left over. So I go, I'm ready. I'm going to do my fire. One match. Fire. It hiked back home. It was great. I still get grief from my mother. I still get grief from my daughter for hitchhiking. And I think it was the safest thing I ever did. Thank you.
Thank you, Vivian. Yeah, we're constantly bringing up stories with my mother, and she's, well, I can't believe you did that. You know. Sometimes it's best just not to tell them anything. Who's next?
Trish.
Trish. Oh, there's Trish. Come on up. Oh, Trish is taking off her jacket. Serious.